Hi, welcome to Over 50 TV, where we provide business and career advice for people over 50. My name is Lou Reyes, and by now you probably heard of the Geoffrey Owens saga. Here is a former Cosby Show star, and recently a picture of him as a cashier at Trader Joe's found its way onto the pages of the Daily Mail newspaper. And also, they were on a Fox News segment. And the pictures and the accompanying story was less than flattering. It was what's called just a classic example of job shaming. Same thing with the segment on Fox News. Yeah, he was a star and probably had millions of fans, no doubt about that. It was a very popular show, as I'm sure you all know. No question, he made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on the show. And I think it was like 5 years that he was on the show, 5 or 6 years. But here he is trying to make ends meet, working at a Trader Joe's as a cashier. I guess he was making about $11 an hour. And the 57-year-old guy was just trying to make ends meet. That's all he was trying to do. And he ended up quitting Trader Joe's. He said he was devastated. He was pretty upset with the article, and he said he just didn't want the publicity. And really, who can blame him? I mean, why is this news? Why is it news that a guy, yeah, he was a star, but, he's like a lot of people out there who are just trying to make ends meet, working between gigs. I mean, certainly he wants to get back, in front of the camera and get on a show. But in the meantime, what he's doing what a lot of us do. Not too long ago, spoke to a woman who's 60 years old, and here she is. Her and her husband had a construction company. Well, her husband died, and when he died, she found that she had to close the business. So what happens is she closes the business, and now what she's doing is she took a job at a retailer, and she does customer service. She's stocking shelves, she's folding clothes, she's doing whatever she needs to do for the retailer so she can make ends meet, so she can pay her bills while she figures out what she's going to do next. And here's a woman who dealt with contractors, who dealt with suppliers and dealt with with deals that were in the thousands of dollars. But she's working at a department store, and she's doing what she's got to do. I talked to a man recently, a guy, and he was a chemist. He was a chemist. He loved the job. One day they laid him off. And since that day, he's been looking for other jobs as a chemist, and he hasn't been able to find a job. And I've talked to him a number of times, and one of the things that we talked about, or he brought up, was the fact, he said, Lou, I'm in my 50s. He said, and I wonder if people aren't hiring me because of my age. Could it be because of my age? And really, who knows? Who's to say? But in his mind, that's a concern. But still, he's still looking for a job. He's trying to decide what he's going to do next. And in the meantime, he's working stocking shelves. And this guy was a chemist. He had lots of responsibility. And there he is, stocking shelves. And you know what? He's glad to do it. He's glad to be able to make the money to pay his bills and make ends meet. This past weekend, I was shopping, and I ran into a guy. I saw this guy, and he was in his 50s and maybe late 50s, and he was doing a toy demo, and he was handing out little stuffed toys to children who were coming around the promotion area that he was responsible for at the store. And I was watching him, and he seemed like he was having a good time, and certain that the kids were too. And I did talk to him, and he told me, he said, I'm a school teacher. He said, I'm doing what I need to do to make ends meet. Then I brought up the article. I said that, the Geoffrey Owens article. I asked him if he read it, and he said he hadn't seen it. But he said to me, I'm not ashamed about what I do. I'm not embarrassed, and I'm not upset. He said, I think this is a life lesson. He goes, in fact, I've told my students to come and visit me to see what I do. He said, it's a life lesson. It's a way for them to understand how life is. When you think of the Daily Mail and you think of Fox News, they see this type of thing as news. Big guy, big star. Now he's been humbled. Now he's working as a cashier. I see it not as news, but as life. So many people, the three I just mentioned, and many, many more, are not where they thought they were going to be. They're in the middle of changing careers. Maybe they're going to start a new business, and they take a job. They take something to make ends meet while they're waiting for their career to blossom or their business to take off. They're doing what they've got to do, and if anything, I think that should be commended. But here's Geoffrey Owens, just a guy doing what he's got to do, just trying to make ends meet, and he finds himself on the pages of a publication and on television, and in a not flattering way, talking about him and what he's doing. So yeah, I don't blame him at all for being upset. It's a shame that they decided, that the media decided to take the angle that they did. They could have said, here's a guy, in his late 50s who hasn't given up, who's still working hard, he's still working on his dream, and he took a job making, a few bucks an hour until, until he finds another spot on a movie or on a show. But, they didn't take that angle. They didn't take that approach. So yeah, I could see where he's upset. But if I was to talk to Geoffrey Owens, I'd say, what? Don't be ashamed and don't be embarrassed. There's lots of people out there, lots of us out there who are doing whatever it takes to make ends meet. And there's a lot of people in their 50s and in their early 60s and beyond who are doing whatever it takes. They're not giving up. And you know what, Geoffrey? You didn't give up. Yeah, you quit the job. And again, I don't blame you. But you know what? I have no doubt in my mind, you would find another job. You would let this die down and find another job because you're not going to quit. And that's one of the things I admire about people that are my age and older, is that we know what it takes to be successful. We know what it takes to earn a living. We know what it takes to keep moving and moving in a direction that's going to benefit us in the long run. But there's a side note to this story, and I'm excited to be able to tell you about this. Tyler Perry, the director, actor, and filmmaker, well-known, I believe he's based out of Atlanta. He saw the story. He saw the negative publicity that accompanied, that really upset Geoffrey Owens. And what he said he admires a person who's working between gigs, to quote Tyler Perry, a person who's working between gigs. So what he did is he offered Geoffrey Owens a 10-episode spot on one of his series. And Geoffrey Owens, from what I understand, he accepted the spot. So it just goes to show you, if you work hard and you work towards your goal, eventually things will work out. They do work out, and they're going to work out for the three people I mentioned. They're going to work out for the people out there who are trying and keeping at it and not quitting and moving forward. And that's really all that counts, is keep moving forward. And one thing I've said, and I believe, is that sometimes you take a step backwards so that later on you can take a giant leap forward. And that means don't give up. Do whatever you have to do. This is Lou Reyes with Over 50 TV, where we provide business and career advice for people over 50.